Welcome back. In this video, I want to talk to you about winding up bobbins. I was planning for this to be a short, hence the vertical recording, but it turned out to be much longer than I expected. Okay, so in the video, I am going to be showing you how I wind a bobbin. The machine that I'm using accepts these plastic bobbins, so that's what we'll be doing. And I'm going to show you a few different ways to wind the bobbin. This first way is I guess, what may be considered the correct way or the standard way by using the mechanisms on the machine to wrap the thread around and then do the bobbin. So on your machine, there will be possibly a guide to tell you how to wrap the thread in order to prepare it to go onto the bobbin. And then what I do, I just wind the thread around the bobbin about 5 or 6 times clockwise and then stick it through one of the holes that's in the bobbin, one of the top holes. And you can see there the thread that was stuck through is just going to hang off to the side. And then we will put this on the bobbin winder, lock it into place, and wind the bobbin. Now, this is something that happens to me pretty often. You'll see here when I start winding it, when I push the pedal, the thread is actually going to go under the bobbin and start winding around the bobbin winder. And so I just unlock it, pull it out, and make sure it's going onto the bobbin, and then continue to wind it. And you'll see the bobbin getting full here, although I'm not going to fill it up all the way. But if I were to do that little device to the right that my hand is on, that would stop the thread that would stop the bobbin. And then I'll just cut the thread on the side on the thread cutter, which I don't think I showed in my other video about machine parts, but that comes in very handy if I can't find my little scissors that I like to use. Okay, that was the proper way. Now I'm going to show you how I typically do it. This is how I'm winding a bobbin probably 100% of the time. I'm just wrapping it on there the same way. I don't stick it through the hole in the bobbin, and I just hold the thread and make sure it winds onto the bobbin smoothly and correctly. This is mostly what I'm doing, and I've been doing it this way for years. So, you have a couple of options in how you want to do this. I'm not saying one way is better than the other. Typically, I'm just kind of like speeding through the bobbin winding process, and so I just do it this way. And maybe you do too if you sew, or maybe you've seen people do it this way as well. So same process. Now, sometimes I'm out of clear bobbins, but I need to change my thread color. So I just wind the color that I want on top of the thread that's already there. This is a common thing as well. I've had up to, depending on the bobbin and how much thread was there, I've had up to maybe 4 colors on a bobbin before. So like if I were going to use this yellow thread to sew something and I just needed a little bit, I may go ahead and just put it on top of the burgundy thread and then use that. Now, sometimes what happens is you end up wasting thread, because if you want to remove the rest of the yellow thread from the burgundy and get back to using the burgundy, you may just toss the thread aside, but I'll just wind it around an empty spool and reuse it later. Now I'm dropping the bobbin in. I think I did show this before, just showing some of the diagrams here. Now, although I did wind the thread onto the bobbin clockwise, it needs to go into the bobbin case counterclockwise. And then you pull it through the metal mechanism and you can hear that snap. That lets you know the thread is where it needs to be. Let's see it again. And then once I pull it out, you can see it's kind of stuck in there. It's kind of like flossing. That is correct. It needs to be in there that way. Okay, now once you have that, you just slide the bobbin plate back on and get ready to pull the thread up. And the way that I do that is by turning the hand wheel toward me, which causes the needle to go down into the bobbin case, and the thread from the needle will grab the thread of the bobbin, and then you can just pull it through. So right there is the bottom thread, which is the bobbin, and then the top is the needle thread. And then I just slide them both between the slit in the presser foot and push them toward the back of the machine. And that is how I get those threads to where they need to be so that I can begin sewing. And right here, I am just going to sew a straight line to make sure that the threads are okay and that the stitches are even. And this looks pretty good. So everything is working as it should. Something that I didn't show you earlier is that there is a little knife down here where you can cut the bobbin thread as well. I rarely use this. I always just keep my bobbin thread long and pull it up long, but you can cut it off and the needle thread will still grab it up the same way. So just like there's a thread cutter on side of the machine, there's one down here as well to help with the bobbin thread. And see, it came up and then I just pulled it. It may even be easier to do it that way. Probably is easier. Okay, so now my daughter woke up and she came into the room. This is my 10-year-old, and I was just going to get her to do a demonstration on bobbin winding and giving her a little test here to see if she can remember. That's good, because it's coming off. Wait, do that again. You see if you don't do what, then it won't go over. What's the problem? Why is this going and this is not going? What didn't you do? Here. What do you have to do to this thing once you get this on here? You have to lock it in place. Okay. Okay, now once you do that, okay, now push the pedal. See, this doesn't go. See, so this has to be locked in place in order for it to wind up. Or good. Now when you hear that little click, you need to hear a click to get in the metal. Okay, pull the bobbin up. Let's see if it's in there. Just pull it out. Yep, it's in there. Good. Oh, look at this. Where's the thread? Why isn't it picking up the bobbin thread? Is that threaded? Okay, now you need to do the whole thing up here. You remember? There we go. Something else I forgot to mention previously is that if you're left-handed, you can sew with your thread. With your fabric on the other side. My daughter is not my daughter isn't left-handed, but she tends to do this a lot. So, either way you can do it. And that side also has the guides for seam allowances. To do the needle? Mm-hmm. And that's basically what I wanted to share, how I go about winding up bobbins. This is for plastic, and it's the same for these metal bobbins. I have a couple still left over from years ago. They're pretty rusty, but those will be wound up the same way if you have those for your machine. So thanks so much for watching, and please let me know if you have any questions or comments.